Presenting Team Newton.
Members of the board of Cineplex, Inc. We are Newton Strategic Consulting, and it's a pleasure to be here today. We are here today to determine actions and priorities for Cineplex in the context of some recent developments. What is this recent development? Well, Netflix Inc. announced today that it has entered into a long-term agreement with Sony Pictures, Universal Films, and Paramount Pictures to release motion pictures to its customers on the same day and date as their films are released in theaters. Now, this is a major crisis and a major threat to your current business model, in particular because so much of your revenue is generated with people in the theater, in the seats. So, how can we move forward? Why is this such a big crisis? Well, essentially, before, there was a significant amount of time between when films were released in theater at Cineplex and the time that it would be released to DVD or online. Effectively, these developments are shrinking that window to nothing. So, you have much fewer opportunities to generate revenue from these customers in your theaters. So to address this issue, we've analyzed three priorities. First, we want to establish a context to really understand where we're going. And it's important to understand that we're here to aid you through this process, and so that we understand where we're going, what the current situation is. Second, what are our short-term action plans to deal with this threat immediately? And third, what are the long-term action plans moving forward and looking towards Netflix presence in Canada's market?
So when we think about establishing a context, what we really want to think about is what are the strengths and weaknesses here in this environment. And what we think is really key is that the cinema offers a big experience. It offers an HD experience. It offers an all-encompassing experience, something that Netflix doesn't offer, where it's in-home. The cinema experience is a social experience. Again, we think that with the strong market share, we can continue to grow this, and we can continue to leverage this. Now, one of the key weaknesses we do find, though, and expanding into this market is the lack of home penetration. And Netflix, obviously, with their 9 million Canadian subscribers, already has a strong foothold in this market. Proceeding forward, we think that the largest opportunities is differentiating that product offering, and that comes with the 3D technology and the AV technology that allows, the UV technology that allows for an all-encompassing experience, so that your content is available to you at any time, at any place. And again, we see the biggest threat going forward are the concerns that surround the value-priced Netflix and how that is going to erode our consumer base. So our second priority is to establish short-term actions. So we'd like to frame this question in the context of, is this agreement a US market-specific agreement? Now, the question was not framed, and so we'd like to really ask this question. Is this a yes or no context? And so when we think of the US economy, when we think about licensing of content, we are concerned about whether, in fact, that this is a North American, global, or strictly US. And in reaction to the fact that this could be potentially an exclusive US agreement, we would like to engage in nearly the identical agreement to ensure that we have exclusive rights to Canadian equivalent content. What that means is licensing rights and arrangements so that we don't have the problem of Netflix providing content as soon as it's released over the web and thereby cannibalizing our theater revenues. Second option is we can look to the remaining market share, the remaining producers out there, and look at establishing some level of initial viewing contracts. So when those movies are first released, they first come to cinema, and this event doesn't happen again in the Canadian market. We think that will effectively posture us in a position that we can go forward to ensure that our revenue model is sustainable. In the event that it is not exclusive, we think that considering a scene loyalty leveraging so that we can match the Netflix agreement. So what that effectively means is using our scene loyalty card and taking that and modeling that and extending that to allow content to be provided for scene members and establishing networks, or rather contracts with providers, so that we can also have content coming from the major studios. And lastly, we think of this as a race to control content. And there are paramount risks with this, and this is essentially a race to the bottom. However, it is something that is imperative to our business model, that we ensure that we have access to content prior to Netflix going forward.
So in the long term, what are we looking at here? What Cineplex is looking to do is to maintain a sustainable competitive advantage over Netflix. So what we ask you is, what is your value proposition? From our SWOT analysis, what we think it is you provide an experience. It's a social experience. It's not just watching a movie. That's important. Your segment of customer is a little bit different than that of Netflix. You have some brand equity in Canada, and although Netflix is prominent in the United States, it is not as prominent here in Canada, and we feel that your brand is stronger than theirs. You have a digital media presence. You are planning to launch an online viewing content platform called Ultraviolet in 2012, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And you have 66% dominant market share in Canada, and market share means customers. So how do you leverage all of this? Well, we looked at some alternatives, and what we feel you need to do is strengthen the other. And when we say strengthen the other, we're talking about the non-traditional cinema revenue streams. We're talking about growing your retail and your online space and meeting Netflix and competing with them, but competing with them in a way that they cannot imitate. How are you going to do that? You're going to grow your Scene Card loyalty program. We'll talk a little bit about that. And the reason for growing is you'd like to generate and harvest the data from that to form a very strong network effect that you can use to maximize the value of your ancillary services. How do you do this? Well, firstly, you need to hit them with like a sign-up blitz. So put a kiosk to sign up as a Scene member in every cinema in every city in Canada. There are 20 million frequent moviegoers in Canada, and only 3 million of them have Scene Cards. We believe that if you do this, you offer them instant access to a Scene Card, a Scene debit card, or a Scene credit card. You can double your Scene membership to 6 million within a year. That is an achievable target. Your partners, Scotia and Visa, we believe would be happy to jump on this, because when you sign up with a bank, it's usually a pretty sticky relationship. And at approximately $36 a year in banking service fees, that $10 million implementation cost will recoup itself in no time. So what we suggest while you're growing this program is to hire an external IT consulting firm that will help you harvest the data, which will allow you to take an intimate look at your consumer preferences, comprehensive demographic breakdown, and you also get some regional mapping capabilities out of this. You turn that into maximizing your UV platform. So you can have personalized offerings, you can have targeted advertising tactics, and most important of all, you will have data to compete in the online retail and streaming space. What do I mean by that? Well, the more you know about your customer, the better your offering can be. And this will be your sustainable competitive advantage over Netflix. Netflix does not have this, and this is how you can beat them.
Employees is a key cornerstone of Cineplex. And we think that Cineplex have a direct relationship with user experience, which Netflix doesn't have. So this is your competitive advantage. And this Netflix cannot imitate. And moreover, Cineplex have a senior management, which have been with Cineplex for long years. I think this is also a key advantage for Cineplex moving forward. We looked at different risks. We looked in 2 dimensions, one among probability and one among how impacted us. So we came up with 2 major risks. One is the complete brand loyalty degradation and significant erosion of revenue model. But there are some mitigation steps to do that. As already discussed, the Scene loyalty program is a key. Grow your Scene loyalty program, harvest the data, use that to tailor to a customer experience, improve the customer experience. I think this is a key which Netflix cannot imitate. And the next is the significant erosion of revenue model. Right now, the revenue segment of Cineplex is morely concentrated on exhibition segment, which is around 90%. So as already we discussed, improve the other segment, 10%. This is where the market is going along. We consider some timeline. The first immediate thing is form a crisis management team. Create a sense of urgency among the employees of Cineplex. Make them believe that they are on the same boat with your senior management. That is the key. That's the first thing what your management team has to be done. Next is 0 to 3 months. As I said, examine licensing programs. Because Netflix has already got exclusive rights with the 3 of the major film producers. So we think we have to go on that path to get exclusive or non-exclusive rights. And we think that it will cost around 100 to 200 million, depending on the programs and depending on the movies and depending on the productions. Along the same line, again, we are still insisting on this grow your scene loyalty program right from the day one, so that by the end of the year, it will be doubled. And next is, you already started working on your ultraviolet, which is a cloud computing model to distribute the online media programs. We think by the end of 2 years, if you could launch that, that would compete with the Netflix, and that would erode the competitive advantage of the Netflix. And after 24 months, even though we achieve that, we think that you have to always monitor the dynamics so that we are always on the top of the market.
So how does this strategy fit in with the goals of senior management? We pulled 3 points, 3 key strategic goals from the annual report from the CEO's message. So the goals are to increase frequency of existing customers, providing both in-home and out-of-home experiences. Next, to grow our media business both inside and outside our theaters. We can do this by growing your customer base through your Scene program and tailoring your digital and online offerings. Another strategic goal is selective strategic acquisition. And moving forward, we feel that at this time, given the volatility related to the Netflix contracts with these major producers, it's not an optimal time to consider further acquisitions, particularly in the American market or in the Canada market. Thank you very much for your time, and we'd like to open the floor for questions.
Given the immediate profit impact of the Netflix movies coming to its audience immediately upon release, and your mitigation strategies, you're going to have a big profit impact with regards to that, and likely market share, price, downdraft. Did you consider, and you did talk about strategic acquisitions not being something that you would do because of the timing at this point, did you think about partnering with other firms, A, and B, given the fact that your share price has been impacted, what are your thoughts with regards to being a takeover target, and strategically, what are your plans with regards to that?
Right? Regarding I'll answer the second part of it, regarding the share price. Currently, the share price of your company is around $25.50, but that is still undervalued. We think it is more valuable. So, and moreover, I think the Netflix have only partnered with only 3 major production films. If you look at the number of films which is releasing in 2012, which is around 140, and if you look at these 3 films, it comes around 39 films. This is not the major one. We are still for the major one in that. So I think Netflix acquiring this, forming an alliance with these 3 companies is not a big major impact for Cineplex.
Okay, have you turned your mind to enhancing the internal theater experience for your current customers?
So part of the strategy surrounding Scene analytics is to tailor those specific offerings. And so part of that would be to offer VIP lounges, which is something that Cineplex is currently considering, as well as communicating with these customers prior to the time that they come to the theater. So one of the things that we think you need to focus on is how do you access your customers before they come to the theater? So giving them notifications for specific films that fit within their tastes, or their likes and desires? And how do you interact with them after they leave the theater? How do you offer them superior value when they're there? So if they prefer certain type of concession snacks, you can offer specific discounts when they're actually at the theater. And when they leave, you can offer them review models and comment boards regarding the movies and recommend further movies looking forward as well. So basically the issue is, use those analytics to tailor the offering as much as you can to your customer.
What kind of communication program would you put in place to deal with the HR, the drop in share value?
What I think is key is that we communicate the value of the theater experience. And what I mean by that is it's not an in-home experience. It's a big motion picture experience. And we really need to think about how to target our offering as a premium offering in comparison to Netflix, and how that, so we can try to diverge the cannibalization, if you will, between that ideal customer, so we can try and separate that apart. And that should allow us to potentially grow into new markets, maybe more older demographics, maybe more professionals that hadn't really been interested in going to movies, but with the access of VIP lounges and more premium products, it seems like a very tempting opportunity given the time constraints and the modern busy life that so many of us lead.
Do you think there's any regulatory actions we should be considering?
At this time, I think it might be a bit premature to say yes. However, it is an area that we definitely need to investigate. There is a possibility that there might be some infringement, some monopolistic activity that they might be violating, and we might be able to take them to court on it. So what we would need to do would be to form a legal team to have a look at this and analyze it more in depth and perhaps proceed in that direction.
Part of your presentation, you talked about the short-term and the long-term strategy. And part of your short-term strategy is to investigate the licensing situation that's available between Cineplex and the various other houses, right? So I take it that during that process, you would want us to look at the regulatory implications as well. Am I right?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
One of your main tactics was through the scene card to get closer to your customers, and I believe you described that as something that Netflix couldn't replicate or really compete against you with regards to the great information you're going to get from that. I recently signed up for Netflix, and I have started using it from time to time, and I find it quite fascinating because I'm not filling out any of their questionnaires, but they are asking me questions. I simply haven't got the time to answer them. But based on what it is that I am watching, they pop up recommendations for me as to what it is that I think I would enjoy watching, which is a great time saver for me. So I would challenge your premise that they don't have the capabilities to compete with you. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. I have Netflix too, I get
that's not good.
I get these pop-ups all the time. You watch this video, you may like these videos also. But what Netflix doesn't currently have is the ability to monitor things that are unrelated to your movie watching experience. So, for example, what kind of foods you buy at the concession, what types of, do you go in groups to watch movies? The other thing is, we, with our UV platform and our mobile platform, can actually talk to you and communicate with you through your phone, through your email, through these types of things. And we actually were interested in this aspect, and what Netflix is focusing on is simply telling you movies that are like other movies, and they're not really diving into what other information they can obtain from you. So we do believe that there is a competitive advantage there for Cineplex that is at a higher level than what Netflix is doing.
a lot of this is reacting within your own environment to the threat from Netflix. Is there a way of causing them some grief through competing with them in their own space?
You know, that's what we are talking about, increasing the other segment. The other segment is basically online. Develop your ultraviolet, which is on cloud computing. Netflix doesn't have that. For example, in ultraviolet computing, if you download a movie, with the same price, it can go to 12 different devices to 5 different persons. That's an offering which Netflix doesn't have. So you are competing in that, but Netflix cannot open a theater. So I think you're cannibalizing the Netflix market, I think.
So I guess what you're saying then is to speed up the implementation of the online theater experience for Cineplex, as well as the availability of the cloud computing, right?
Exactly.
So I guess in the short term, you're saying that we should invest more monies in the direct market and strategies that would compete against Cineplex.
Correct, and I think that it all, okay, I think it all kind of comes back to scene analytics and how you actually use that information. And so you can use that to essentially turn occasional moviegoers who may go to a movie maybe once or twice a year, and then you're reaching those viewers through other platforms. You can use your analytics and your data to assess what their preferences are, how they want to access their film, these films. And essentially what we're trying to do is create a Cineplex user.